We lost some of our, we lost all our dimming switches on the lighting, which I'm really disappointed about because we used to be able to dim the lights out there. So now they're either on or off, which can be tricky sometimes. So thanks for tolerating the low lighting. Come on up. Oh, you haven't had a chance to see the lights yet.
That's okay.
There.
I see them and they don't see me.
Yeah. They're all naked, Charlotte. Let's make sure that's the right.
Okay. And I brought up a timer because 5 minutes is all I can possibly do. See how this works. Yeah, make sure. I would not be here if I'm hoping that maybe I can meet with some of you at break time. Just to discuss if anybody can help me.
Would you put your mouth next to the mic?
Okay, sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been feeding some feral cats. I call them my second street ferals here in Beaverton. And also I am a vehicular habitee, I think they call it. I live in my car. But for the last year, I have been feeding these cats. And I have decided that I do want to go to Washington and go up to Canada. And getting ready to leave the other day, I drove up and they're demolishing the house where the cats are. So I thought, okay, I'll do this. Maybe somebody can help me out, give me some information. But the story is this: I've lived here 8 years. I had a condo down on Erickson, and then I had an apartment on Greenway next to Providence Park. And I lived with a lady, and we were going to get another apartment. And her daughter came in, and they started drinking. And then they decided they were going to kill each other, at which point I called the cops. And they were breaking into my bedroom. And I had a choice. I've had a lot of bad choices. This was to let them in, and they're the Valkyries. I mean, they're big ladies. Or jump out the window. Well, actually it wasn't jumping, but I did get caught on the window, and I kind of shred a lot of my veins. But I also shed a lot of my embarrassment about living out in the world. That night, I stayed in my car, and I slept over, I think it's the Hilton Hotel. And I woke up in the morning, and there were birds outside the car window. And I thought, you know what, I'm never going home. And I haven't. I've had the best time of my life. I have been all over Oregon. I've also been a cat sitter. I've been a story. I took care of a witch for a lady for caregiving. I've managed an inn, and I've met the craziest people in the world. I just loved it. I had at one place, Scooby-Doo is a 150-pound Great Dane that wouldn't let me out of the bedroom, and I had to call the lady to come and get the dog away. I got sprayed in the face from a lady that I thought was going to be wonderful. She was my age, and she sprayed me with deodorant in the face. So that, and then I went to Oregon City, which I'd never been to before. In fact, I'd never seen much of Oregon. I've seen a lot of it. And you can't see, if anybody's been there, you know Willamette Falls, which is beautiful. I mean, it just comes like glass, and it just drops down. But you can't go see it. And they're always talking about, you know, building a tourist, you know, road out there. But not only do I read books I don't understand, I never stop when it says you can't do it. So I crawled under the electric fence. This was the best I've ever done. And I crawled on my doing this thing. And I get up, and it was amazing. The sound of it, and it was just massive. I've been to the Grand Canyon, but this was mobile. I mean, the whole thing was moving, and the spray of the water was hitting me. And you know, life is short, and it's worth all the risk you can take.
Charlotte, thank you so much. That was amazing. You've seen a lot of things. So are you, I'm curious, you said something about the cats. Are the cats in danger?
Yes, very much so. I have some pictures.
Okay.
I left my phone.
And you know, you can You can come to the reference desk. We might be able to find you some kind of help about how to relocate cats if you want.
Yes,
So,
yes, I can't, and I don't know anything about, they don't rehome them, I can get trapped, but.
okay. Yeah, I don't know much about that, but we're happy to see what we can find upstairs too, so come see
Great, I've
us.
got great pictures of.
Okay, thank you. Who's next, Ann?
Jim Wolf.
Jim Wolf, come on up.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First timer, so go easy on me. I'm going to talk about travel tonight, and I'm going to talk about it as a journey, not necessarily in distance, but also in my life. And what I learned, one thing, or I'd like to share with you before I go further, is that not necessarily the distance of a trip really equates to how good it's going to be. So what I'm going to talk about is one of the shortest trips I took in my life, because I've been fortunate to be able to go in the northern and southern hemispheres. This was a trip to Seattle. It was about 10 years ago. I had gone on a work-related conference with about 5 of my colleagues. So we get to, in fact, we stayed at the Sheraton down in Seattle, nice large hotel. It was a 3-day conference, and we were all eager and ready to go. There was going to be some nationally recognized speakers. So it was very promising as far as what was going to be conducted. So day 1 was spent mostly going through some of the breakout sessions, groups of 40 and 50 people in a classroom. But the next day was the general session. And it was a quite large conference. We had about 700 attendees. And most everybody was going to be going to this general session. So day 2, the session starts mid-morning. Was a presenter, probably one of the speakers that was most welcomed and most recognized. So the speaker started out, got everybody engaged. We knew it was going to be a good 90-minute session. So the speaker was talking about presenting to people or interacting, engaging with people. That was probably the premise of the entire 90 minutes. But in the beginning, he mentioned about how the importance of channeling and understanding energy from people. And it doesn't matter if it's personal or business. So he continued on a bit, and he said, in my life, one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced insofar as people generating their energy was when I received a standing ovation. So he said, at any point during my 90 minutes, if anybody in the audience is interested in experiencing a standing ovation, please interrupt me and let me know. Well, he continued on, and when you go to conferences sometimes, and I've been to many, sometimes you just want to melt into the seat, and you're there, you want to absorb and understand and take in what's presented, but you really are not interested in much interaction. And many people, I can tell, in the group was probably like that. Well, about 30 minutes later, I started to get this feeling inside, like I was so intrigued by what he said, especially when he spoke about the feeling that you get from the energy from a group that really just throws it right at you in an ovation. So a couple more minutes clicked, and for some reason I knew that I had to do this. I looked around, once again I was with like 5 other colleagues, didn't mention a word to them. All of a sudden this urge came to me. I uttered this word that I've never said before in my entire life. I stood up, raised my hand, and said, "Yo." We're talking about a group of professionals from around the nation. I said, "Yo." I mean, you can see the frame of my mind. I wasn't thinking. So I said, "I would like a standing ovation." Okay, but this time, everybody's necks craned on me. It's like, what? And I stood up. The speaker stopped everything. The lights came on. He said, "Sir, come down the side aisle. My people will help you up onto the stage." So I ran. And as I'm running, my adrenaline is kicking in. And truly, I did not even know what I was doing. I didn't even have time to do an about face and say, no, I'm just kidding. So I get up on stage, speaker comes next to me, we do some simple introductions, and he said, this is amazing. He said, you know, I've been speaking around the nation for probably 20 years, and I tell the same story. And he says, I cannot recall the last time somebody took me up on my offer. And I said, well, you haven't met me. So he said, okay. Now, he said to the group out there, he said, this is Jim Wolf. He's from Portland, and we're going to give it everything you can give when I count 3. So I stood there, and of course there are a lot of lights, and not seeing really the full picture. I'm just really still just unbelievable that I even did this, you know. So all of a sudden he counts to 3, and everybody in this ballroom stands up and applauds and screams and yells. I stood there, and for a moment in time, I didn't know where I was, but this wall of energy came out of the audience and just hit me. And truly, I was almost hypnotized. I just didn't quite understand what was going on, but yet it was a feeling that I had obtained that was just, it was memorable. So after we finished, or after the audience finished, probably lasted about 20 to 25 seconds. It seemed like an eternity for me. The speaker then, you know, thanked everyone, and you know, I left the stage, walked back to my seat, and of course the group I was with was just like beside themselves. You know, I don't think they ever stopped clapping. But you know, the thing was, for me, I truly understood what happened, you know, and what was going on. And it was an experience, like I said, although the shortest trip in my life, probably to Seattle, it was one experience that really, truly transformed me or moved me in. So more or less it was a journey that I took. And just a realization. I mean, even to today, with 10 years later, I don't think there's a month that goes by when I don't think about this experience. And I guess my parting words to you is, if anyone ever offers to give you a standing ovation, take them up on it. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
All right, Jim, you just go around to these storytelling events and tell that story. That's hilarious. All right, Ann. Who's next? That was really funny. Sorry?
Carol Gunn.
Carol Gunn. Come on up, Carol.
How many of you have a morning routine? Anybody?
Yes.
I too have a morning routine, and I think I inherited it from my parents. Early on, I remember at the breakfast table, my parents shaking out the newspaper, the LA Times. And in the evenings, they would be reading the Ventura Star Free Press. Fast forward about 25 years, I was still having that morning routine and reading newspapers. I just graduated from graduate school in environmental health and started my first job. I did that for about 6 months, and then I had to study for this horrendous and awful certification exam. I spent hours studying, and I gave up my morning routine. The exam came. It was 8 hours in length. And then at my job, I was given the opportunity to go on a business trip right after that hellish certification exam. So I never restarted the newspaper. I went on a 3-day business trip to Monterey, California. Gorgeous. beverages. So the first day I get there, I'm attending a class called Respiratory Protection. I know everybody would like to go to that class. Going to that class, get up the first morning, and lo and behold, there's a newspaper outside of my hotel room. Whoa! However, I hadn't planned for it. So I knew the next morning I'll get up just a smidge earlier so I can get into my morning routine again. So the next morning, I get up a little bit earlier and I look outside my hotel room. No newspaper. Okay, that is okay. I'll just take my shower and get it after my shower. So as getting into the shower, I hear that plop. Yes, it's out there. So I wash my hair as quickly as possible, get out of the shower, my hair is out to here. I slip on a shift dress, a cotton dress. It sticks to me because I'm wet and I'm barefooted. And I go again, open the door, I reach, slam! Yes, and I just tore this. Same time. There I am, hair out to here, a shift dress stuck to me because there's nothing underneath there. I am wet, barefooted, with a newspaper. Great. So, 6:30 in the morning, there's not a lot of housekeepers around in the hotel. So I wait. Maybe. No, none. So finally decide I gotta do something about this. I have to attend my class. My company's paying for this. So I go to the elevator. Elevator doors open. Yes, there are people on the elevator. And one of them says, "Aren't you in my class?" Yes, I am in your class. Turn around. Try not to talk to anyone in the elevator. My hair's out to here. The dress is stuck to me, and I'm barefooted with my newspaper. And then I go up to the front desk. And the guy waits on me, and he says, "What can I do to help you?" And I said, "Well, I locked myself out of my room." And he says, "Do you have any ID?" He really said that to me. I'm like, my hair is out to here, I'm stuck, I'm barefoot. No, I don't have any ID. He goes, "Just kidding." He gives me the key, and I was able to go back up and read the newspaper. So I will say this, that was when I was 25, and clearly I'm nowhere near 25 anymore. I still have a morning routine. I still read a newspaper every single day. And now, when I'm in a hotel, I never go near the door without the key in hand.
That's very funny. It reminded me, occasionally I share a little vignette, and I'm going to do it because it reminded me of something that happened to me. I was in Cabo San Lucas. We were staying in like a timeshare, and one night I went out on the beach, and it was a big place, but there was nobody out there, and it was a big condo. And I took a towel out, and I got out there, and I went, I'm not wearing anything, I'm skinny dipping, I'm going out in the water with nothing on me. So I take everything off, put it on the towel, I go in the water, and the water is beautiful, with these huge breakers that come in, but they like break really nicely, and if you just got out past them, they were big rolling waves, kind of scary, but once you got up past the break, it was beautiful. And I'm out there floating around. It was really warm too. We don't have warm water here. It was super warm. So I'm floating around, and I look over, and I hear these laughing girls, and they come running down, and they grab my towel and my clothes, and they go right off, and I'm like, oh no. So I like stayed in the water for a bit longer. I thought, oh, they're gonna bring him back. It's just a quick little joke. They don't bring him back. So I finally get out of the ocean, and they have these like floodlights coming out of the beach. It's not like it's dark out there. It was lit very well. So that was my first mistake. Don't do it in full view of a bunch of balconies. So I get out and I'm standing there, I'm gonna cover myself, I'm going, and then I hear this laughing, and they're up on some balcony somewhere, and they're laughing, and I go, and I'm, yelling at them, it's like, Jesus Christ, bring me my clothes back and the towel, and they were just, and they eventually brought them back. But I had to go back in the water and wait for them to bring it back. So, that just reminded me of that. Who's next here?
The next caller is Susan Schindler. Yep.
Susan, where are you? Come on up, Susan.
Okay, just so you know, all of my clothes will stay on during this. Thank you. So 3 of us decided to go to Crater Lake on a road trip. Yes, road trip. It was my mom, who was in her 90s, my daughter, who was in her 20s, and me, who was in the middle. We had never been to Crater Lake before. We'd been in Oregon all of our lives, but never even thought of it. So this was going to be a great adventure. We packed up the car, we got things ready, we checked an itinerary, kind of, real loosely. And we decided we wanted to do 3 things that would make our trip special. My daughter had a new camera. She wanted to take some photos so she could keep the memories alive forever. My mom, being in her 90s, was more pragmatic. She wanted to go on a trip where she could take as many bathroom breaks and leg stretches as she wanted without anybody in the car complaining. And I wanted to make sure that I got to try a brand new Starbucks when we went past Eugene, because it was open 24 hours a day. Special. So we started looking at things we could do at Crater Lake, and my daughter had mentioned sunrise at Crater Lake. What a wonderful opportunity to take some photographs. Well, that was great. The only problem was we couldn't get very much time away from home. We had a total of 3 days and 2 nights that we could be away. So we thought maybe we could extend it out a little bit if we left really early in the morning on the first day and got to Crater Lake as the sun rose. Not only could we be able to go through traffic faster, because there wouldn't be traffic in the middle of the night, but we could get there, we could watch the sunrise, she could get pictures, and Eugene happened to be about halfway, and I would get my Starbucks. It would be a win-win-win, we thought. So we set the time for 1 o'clock. We're leaving Forest Grove at 1 o'clock, and then we're heading to Crater Lake. We had everything packed. We had all of our snacks in the car. We were all ready. We all tried to go to sleep at 5 o'clock at night to get a few hours of sleep. That's not a smart thing to do. You can't sleep at 5 o'clock when you have an important thing coming up. So we all napped a little bit. By 11:30, we were all bopping around the house. We've already had a snack to eat. We've already gone to the bathroom 3 times. We've double-checked all of our luggage. Everything's good to go. We might as well go. So we did, really early. It wasn't even quite midnight when we took off. But that would mean that we had more time to take those leg breaks, more time to take those bathroom breaks if we needed. We had it figured out pretty darn good. So we're in the car and heading out. Thank goodness for I-5 and the rest areas. We stopped at every one of them. And as soon as we got back on the road, we were looking at the GPS to see when the next one was. It was so much fun. This was going to be a great road trip. When we started to have trouble when we got down around Eugene, something about the GPS must have been tired because it wasn't keeping up with us, but we didn't realize it until we were past the exit we were supposed to take, past the clover leaf by several miles. and past Eugene totally. And then it beeps, Starbucks. Oh, we missed it. So we all got together and started looking at the map and saying, should we do it? Should we turn around? Should we make that loop, go back, find that exit, get that Starbucks and on our way? And possibly miss that special moment of the sunrise at Crater Lake? Well, we took a vote, and it was decided we were going to forego Starbucks. We continued on the road, but there was an air in the car that was a little bit different. I would liken it to maybe the smell of mutiny. We were all resigned to the fact that we weren't going to get the 24-hour Starbucks, but we made a point we would stop later on and make sure and get that. The mutiny seemed to calm down a little bit at that time. We continued on the way. We moved into the Cascade Range, and the weather started to change a little bit. In the beginning, there were a few clouds in the sky. There was a moon. You could see it once in a while when it would pop through the clouds. Stars would twinkle once in a while, but it was a pretty good cloud cover. Once we moved into the Cascades, it seemed to get thicker outside, and the air seemed a little bit denser, and pretty soon it was getting foggy and more foggy, and we had to slow down, and next thing you know, we're down to 50 miles an hour, and then 40 miles an hour, and then we start looking at the map and thinking, we're not going to make it to Crater Lake in time for the sunrise. So we went through the vote again. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it was decided maybe we should take an alternative and stop at Diamond Lake first. That's more than an hour difference in drive time. We could save that hour, make the sunrise at Diamond Lake in the morning, and maybe Crater Lake the next day. We took a vote. We all voted and we agreed Diamond Lake it was. The air didn't necessarily smell like mutiny. It smelled more like resignation, but we were going to go for it. Diamond Lake it was. We were on an adventure and we were going to make it something. So we keep heading out. As soon as we had made that decision, my mom, who was in the back seat, she had called dibs so that she could sleep, said, I'm going to take a nap. So she was fast asleep in the back seat, and we were creeping along the highway at about 30 miles an hour because of the heavy fog. We started to go into the Umpqua National Forest, and as we're going, we're rising in elevation. And as we were going, the fog seemed to lift a little bit. I was able to go 40 miles an hour. Hey, we're making time now. And then 50 miles an hour, yay! And then we were up to the speed limit, and at 5,000 feet, we broke out of the fog, and it was clear. The clouds were back with little sprinkles of stars. The moon had just set, but it looked good, and we were making great time. Out comes the map again. We make some calculations. We can make it to Crater Lake in time for the sunrise. So we changed our plans again back to the Crater Lake. So we're going along, we're zipping right into town. At 5:30 in the morning, we pull onto the park access road. And we were about an hour before sunrise. And we thought, this is perfect. We can drive around the perimeter until we find the exact spot, and we will be there for that sunrise. Well, we're driving around and we're trying to find the way, and the perimeter isn't a circle like you would expect. It kind of jogs this way and it jogs that way, and next thing you know, you're not quite sure what direction you're going. And I thought to myself, it's going to be sunrise soon. We are going to have to make a decision. When I looked out on the horizon and I saw a bit of pink, the sun, it's gonna be coming up right there. And look, a parking lot right next to the road. I pulled off, I aimed that car for that sliver of pink, and I thought, that's what we're gonna do. And if I look really, really close, between the far horizon and us, that had to be Crater Lake. Out there, just magnificent. It was so smooth, not a ripple, not a wiggle of the water at all. Oh, it was beautiful. And I was going to be there for the sunrise. My daughter wanted to make sure and set up her camera. And she had a tripod. So she was going to get out of the car to set up the tripod. She opened up the car door and a wind come blasting into the car like an Arctic blast and just about pulled the door right back shut. It was so frigid cold out there. Mom woke up instantly out of the back seat and all of us had to go pee. We grabbed the blankets, grabbed the coats, we ran out of the car, and thank goodness there was an unlocked porta potty right there. It was a beautiful day. We all took care of our business. Mom and I got back in the car, started up the engine, and was trying to get warm in between the shivers. My daughter was still outside, trying to find a spot where she could put her tripod up without it falling over in the wind. Pretty soon she came back to the car and she knocked on my door, on my window, and she said, "We've got a problem." I said, "Okay, what possibly could be the problem? I'm busy waiting for this little sliver of light to get better." And she said, "That's not where the sun comes up. You're looking across the Klamath Basin and the far hills. There must be a town on the other side of the hill. You're looking at the lights of a city." And I said, "Well, then where is Crater Lake?" She says, "It's behind you. We have to go up a path to see it." So we're going to have to change direction. Not a problem. Pop open the trunk, we layer every bit of clothing we can find, and then we start trudging up the hill. Mom's on my arm and kind of a little wobbly. And so Marilyn is holding on to my mom on one side, I'm holding on the other, she's holding on her tripod, we're all getting up to the crest of the hill, and just as we get to the top of the path, we can actually see where the sun's going to come up, and you can see the glass of the lake below us. It is beautiful, and it is freaking cold. The wind is trying to blow us off this peak. But she sets her tripod down, she holds her camera, and she starts taking pictures. I'm holding on to Mom, and about that time, the clouds break just a bit, and we can see the sun coming over the horizon, the sky, the clouds, the earth below, and the beautiful lake showing the reflection. That was just awe-inspiring. And then Mom tugged on my arm, and she said, "Huh, isn't that something?" And I said, "Yes, Crater Lake is just amazing." She says, "No, it's that Diamond Lake. Looks just like Crater Lake in this light." At that moment, we realized maybe road trips are better during the daytime.
Thank you, Susan. I was worried the sun was going to come up for a second there.